When they were dating, he would slap her ass and they would have rough sex, but that was the extent of it. Opie made it clear to her husband that she was kinky, even to the point of sending him books and rope to practice tying her up with. They eventually got married, and her husband has not really taken on the role she's wanted of him. Now their sex life is non-existent. Both of them are unhappy with their current sex life. She knows what she wants and has told him what she wants, but he's been unable or unwilling, not sure which, to assume a kinkier, more dominant role in the bedroom. She really wants to try to fix this problem.
So the question is how to fix this problem. I guess that's presumably the question. It's challenging. It's really, really challenging. And the analogy I would make is with another of my favorite kinks, which is love. Right? I make an argument in the book that love is a kink. A kink I define is savoring the intensity of sexual play with a perceptual overlay that allows for an embodied exploration of meaning. And according to that definition, love is a kink. When you have sex with someone you love, it is a different experience, not because the sensations are different, but because the perceptions are different and it is more meaningful. And so using love as an analogy, as a different kink instead of dominance as a kink, you can see the problem is I want him to love me and he does not. Well, it's not hopeless. There are plenty of arranged marriages all over the world where you throw two strangers together basically and say, hey, you're going to have to figure out how to love each other. And a significant fraction of them do. So it's not hopeless, but it's also not easy. It's not also the norm of the Western world to have arranged marriages. Usually we try to establish a greater degree of compatibility up front, and they failed to do this. She did not, it sounds like she did not clarify before marriage exactly what she wanted. She was hoping he would take on the role based on him liking a little rough sex, and they went ahead and got married. And now, turns out, he might like a little rough sex, but he is not stepping into a dominant role the way she would want him to. And so there's a failure of premarital communication here. That's part of the issue. Now, fixing it when there's a gap like this, I think, there are some versions. There are some ideas as to what can happen here. Number one, he needs to take the relationship seriously enough to realize this is a relationship ending issue. So she has to communicate that to him, is that even if they stay married, the marriage will be shitty, or they're not going to stay married if he doesn't fix this issue. That's what's on the table, and he needs to bite that off. Just the same way as if, well, they actually, I guess, aren't having a great sex life. But just the same way if she's not kind to him or he's not kind to her, it's like, hey, I need this to be met or we're done. That's what's on the table here. And I think people get weird about that. I think people are like, well, like, why are you so worked up about just a little spanking or tying up or whatever? And so I think it's because people don't put it on the same par as like love. And it's like, well, yeah, no, if you don't love me, we're done. Like, if you don't find a way to give me love, then we're done. And it is just that serious because it is an embodied exploration of personal meaning. She cannot tell the story of who she really is in life without this. This is who she is. And so if it's unseen or unacknowledged or unexplored, she is cutting off part of herself in a way that is absolutely not viable moving forward. Once he has taken it sufficiently seriously in that regard, I think he can go through the process of trying to figure out what are the options for changing things. And I go through in the book, I think there are really 7 options that I outline. One of which is she continues to just suppress her need and suffer. Okay, it's an option, but it's not a great one. Second option is that they talk about it more openly, more intimately, and he continues to refuse. Now, if this were a casual thing that she were interested in, it's just like once every 2 years, I kind of want to be tied up, whatever, she'll get over it. It's fine. As long as she can talk about it and he can say, oh yeah, I know you're into that. Sorry, I'm not. Whatever. Okay. They can talk about it and he can consent reluctantly. He can go along with it, try to tie her up. He's not really that into it. and it'll be a very mediocre experience for her at best, because it won't be really engaging. Then, or he can discuss it and he can do a better job of it and not be a dick and really try to get into it and give her a really good experience. And it'll be a better experience for her, but not what she really needs. Why? Because if your partner's sleeping with you out of obligation, it doesn't really scratch the itch you need scratched. No matter how enthusiastic they seem, no matter how good a show they put on, if they never initiate, if they're never excited, if they're never into it, it's not really going to hit the mark. So then we get into the more serious option. The next option is he finds a way to undergo some true, inherent, deep personal shift in his state of being and meets her in a place that is more compatible. That is tricky. I think there are ways of doing it, which we can talk about in a second. Or then one of the other two remaining options is either the relationship changes and they open the marriage and she gets a dominant somewhere else, or the relationship dissolves. So those are the 7 options. Out of those, most people are looking for number 5. Most people are hoping that he will find a way to engage in this behavior, in this frame, in this way of being that will meet her need. And the challenge here is that she really needs it. It is a need like love. It is a need on that same level in order for true fulfillment. And so for her to be in that state, to have been lacking it for quite some time, to be thirsty in maybe a very profound sense of that word, and then also give him the space to find his way to it on his own, because he can't, if he owns it for her sake, they'll end up at number 4, where he's doing it enthusiastically for her, and it's not what she wants, and it will not get her where she wants. So he has to be respectful of the fact that she really needs it. It's a genuine, real, burning need, and it's relationship threatening. And then she has to, despite being already desperate for it, she has to give him the space to find what he likes about it for himself. What parts of that can he engage with authentically? And the analogy I give is when your partner likes a type of movie you don't like. My partner likes to read romance novels, and it's really important to her to share that with me. Relationship endings important. Now that seems ridiculous to me. Why would you end in a relationship over not sharing romance novels? But if that's what you're telling me, then I need to figure out how to enjoy a fucking romance novel. Now, I can't enjoy it the way you enjoy it, because I would just be doing it for you then. And that's not what you want. You want me to genuinely enjoy it for myself, on my own. Well, I'm going to have to read a bunch of romance novels, and I'm not necessarily going to like the same ones as you. We can't get that specific. That's the other thing. She may want him to be kinky. He may become kinky. It may not be exact. Maybe he's not into bondage. Maybe he's not into some specific kinks. She doesn't get to control the specifics of it. But he could read a bunch of romance novels. He could read a bunch of erotica, in the case of kink, and figure out how to engage authentically with finding something to like, to acquire the taste for kink, for himself. What things do I like here? And I think you can make a very good case, at least for a dominant, is, hey, what are the things you might have always wanted in your heart of hearts you would be turned on by, but it seemed out of bounds, seemed like I wouldn't go along with it, or anybody might not go along with it. Maybe you're a little ashamed of wanting. What are those things? And if I were tied up and I couldn't say no, then couldn't you do those things? So she's playing a dangerous game because it may not be what she wants her to do, but he has to figure out for himself and engage with her. So he does have to tie her up, but in some ways, she can't be topping from the bottom. That's the biggest challenge of topping from the bottom in these scenarios, is it doesn't give him space, time to explore, what do I like about this? Is there something I can learn to enjoy about this that is not available in other ways, right? And maybe nothing, right? That's the other thing, is that the answer may be no. He may realize, I just like missionary sex, so I can have missionary sex with you tied up, or I can have missionary sex with you not tied up, and It's all the same to me, even after exploration. But by contrast, he may find, oh, actually, when you're tied up, I actually like really teasing you and not letting you come. Oh, I really like pinching your nipples more than you want me to, but you can't stop me. And that's really hot. Now, that may not be, maybe she doesn't like nipple play. Maybe she doesn't like nipple clamps. So then there can be other conflicts there. But he needs a chance to explore what about her being tied up can provide a psychological stimulus for him to be more himself. And that can trigger the kind of deep change, the deep transformative change that could offer them a way forward. In option number 5 that I illustrated before, where one person changes. I would argue, however, that the person changing is whoever has to add something. She can't change in such a way that she subtracts her desire for kink. I think there are ethical aspects to that. I don't think you can ask someone to be less than they are. I also think that there are practical aspects. It's very difficult to take downgrades in intensity in general. And I think that once you have acquired a taste for something, you cannot unlearn liking that. Whereas you can learn to acquire tastes. And so I think, unfortunately, the direction is geared in that particular way that he has to be the one doing the changing. She just can't be for a variety of practical and ethical reasons.